As a British citizen, I have travelled extensively throughout the UK. I have been to the majority of the major cities in the country. And so in this video, I'm going to rank 33 British towns and cities, from 33rd being the worst to 1st being my favourite. Now, before I do get into the list, just a few things to bear in mind. Firstly, do not get offended if your hometown or city is low down on the list. Do not take offence. I do have many subscribers who are from the UK, so if you are from one of the lower ranked cities in my list, do not get offended. It's just a bit of fun and it's just my opinion as well. Secondly, do feel free to let me know in the comments some of your favourite cities in the UK, and also do let me know some of your least favourite places in the country. Please do let me know if you do agree with anything I say, or conversely, if you do disagree with anything I say. Please do let me know. We can have a little bit of a debate in the comment section, but it's really important that we do keep things civil in the comment section. Please, let's not insult each other or use any bad language or anything like that. Let's just have a civil debate in the comment section if we do have any disagreements. And thirdly, just a little bit of promotion that I need to do before I get into the list. If you do go to the description, click onto the top link, it will take you to the Safety Wing website. Safety Wing offer bespoke digital nomad insurance for travellers and nomads who are working abroad. If you are working remotely, travelling around, it is important that you do have insurance to protect yourself if you do get stuff stolen or if you fall ill. It is important you do have insurance, so do check out Safety Wing. Again, the link is in the description, and I'll also drop the link in the comment section. Safety Wing are the leading digital nomad insurance provider in the world. Right, so now let's get into my list. Now, just be aware that I don't have pictures and videos for every single one of these places. The majority of places I do, but there are some where I do not have any footage or any photos that I can share onto this video here. And that does sadly include both City 33 and City 32 in my list. And so that leads me on to the 33rd place in my list, which is Swindon. So my apologies if you are from Swindon, but I'm gonna have to say that Swindon is my least favourite place that I have been to so far in the UK. Now, just to re-emphasise, this clip in the video that you're seeing right now, this is not Swindon, this is London, but I don't have any footage or any photos or anything from Swindon. And quite frankly, I don't think you would want to take any photos or any videos of Swindon, because there's nothing to do, nothing to see. There's this really ugly grey skyscraper in the middle of town, but apart from that, it's pretty uninteresting. I don't see any reason why you would want to go to Swindon, so I think you can avoid Swindon. You can probably avoid the 32nd city in my list as well, and city number 32 is Coventry. Now, the reason why I went to Coventry is because I actually was visiting Warwick University on an open day, so I had a little look around Coventry. Since Warwick University is located just on the outskirts of Coventry, and from what I saw of the actual city of Coventry itself, yeah, I wasn't too impressed. It doesn't look very nice. It was bombed very heavily in the Second World War, so all of the architecture is very ugly. The train station looked very creepy. I'm gonna give Coventry the edge over Swindon, just because Coventry is a bigger city than Swindon, and at least in Coventry you're very nearby places like Leamington Spa, which I haven't been to, by the way, but I've heard it's very nice, and also the town of Warwick itself, and also Birmingham, so it's quite well connected to other nearby places. But the actual city of Coventry itself, again, not really nice in my opinion. And now that leads me on to the 31st place in my list, and this here is the town of Weston-super-Mare. And as you can see here, I do actually have some photos from Weston-super-Mare. Well, what can I say about Weston-super-Mare? Not really much to do. They do have a beach, I guess, so that's a positive in the summer, but it wasn't really a sunny day on the day that I went. As I'm sure you can imagine, most coastal towns and cities outside of sunny days are not really great places to be. The town itself, there was a bit run down, a bit neglected, but I do vaguely remember that I went to this cafe and I had a nice hot chocolate, so I guess that was a positive. So I'm gonna give Weston-super-Mare the edge over Coventry. And now number 30 in my list is the city of Plymouth. Now, when I went, the city centre just felt empty, it felt neglected. The architecture is pretty ugly. Definitely one of the most ugly and eerie city centres that I've ever had the pleasure of visiting. The reason why I will give the edge to Plymouth over Weston-super-Mare is because in Plymouth you do have this nice kind of marina area where you've got some cafes and some restaurants. If you did remove this nice little marina area from the city, then yeah, Plymouth would be pretty damn bad. But because it is located on the coast, you do get some nice seafood. I had this seafood stew or soup at one of the restaurants there, so again, I guess that's a small positive. Now, the 29th city in the list is Dundee in Scotland. So why do I think Dundee is better than Plymouth? Well, I guess the city centre does have some nice-ish architecture. The architecture, I would say, in Dundee is actually nicer than Plymouth. You can walk along the River Tay. You actually get some nice views when you walk along the river. You've got the bridge in the background. But yeah, not going to lie, this place did give me the creeps. Dundee is known to be a bit of a rough and tough city, and yeah, I did certainly get that vibe walking around the place. Dundee is actually the city in Scotland with the biggest support for Scottish independence, so if you are an Englishman, just keep your mouth shut and don't really cause any problems. Oh, and also if you are walking around the city centre, you will see this statue of a cartoon character called Desperate Dan. Well, not gonna lie, if my name was Dan and if I was from Dundee, I'd be a pretty desperate Dan too. Now, sadly for my Scottish subscribers, sticking in Scotland, number 28 on the list is Stirling. Sadly, it's not as sterling as what the name would suggest, but it's nice enough. I guess you have some nice architecture in the city centre. It's just that it's incredibly quiet, or at least when I went. It's not ugly per se, but it's certainly not an exciting place to be. But you can go to Stirling Castle. You get some nice views of the Scottish countryside. And whilst you are at Stirling Castle, you'll get to see this statue of Robert the Bruce, the lad back in the day who defeated the English army and hence gained independence for Scotland. And now then, number 27 in my list of cities is Sheffield. Now, the reason why I will give the edge to Sheffield over Stirling is just because I feel that Sheffield is slightly more vibrant, slightly more exciting than Stirling. But to be honest with you, Sheffield, in my opinion, is not a very pretty place. It is a student city, so there are a lot of young people about, especially during term time, and there's also decent nightlife as well. But the city centre is certainly not easy on the eye. Very similar to the likes of Plymouth and Coventry, where you walk around and you feel to yourself, oh, not the best. But if you like, you can check out the Crucible Theatre. It's where the World Championship snooker takes place, so if you are a bit of a snooker fan, you may want to take the pilgrimage up to Sheffield to see the Crucible. Now, next on the list, number 26 is Salisbury, and unfortunately I don't have any photos or video footage of Salisbury. Now, the city centre of Salisbury is actually quite nice. You do have some nice historic architecture, and a little fact for you, Salisbury Cathedral actually does have the highest cathedral spire in the entire country. And also a lot of people stay in Salisbury in order to go to Stonehenge, because you're only a 20-30 minute drive away from Stonehenge, so it's a great place to use as a base to visit Stonehenge. I actually don't think I've ever been to Stonehenge, but what I will do is I will drop a link in the comment section and also the description too, where you can actually purchase a tour of Stonehenge if you are interested in that. But the city of Salisbury itself, I mean, it's a nicer city than Sheffield, but it's not very exciting. There's not really much going on other than looking at the cathedral, so yeah, that's why it's pretty low down on the list. So now, city number 25 on the list is Bournemouth. Actually, sorry, I think it's a town. Well, regardless of whether it's a city or a town, Bournemouth, as I'm sure you may be aware, does have a beach, so a lot of people do go there in the summer. It's quite lively and vibrant in the summer. You do have lots of shops about and a shopping centre too. But if we do forget the beach and if we do forget nice weather, the town itself, in my opinion, is pretty depressing, like so many towns in the UK. It would certainly be lower down the list if there were no beach, but I guess there is a beach, so I guess we're just talking in hypotheticals now. It's like saying if your aunt had a 12-inch piece of meat, would she be your uncle? Who knows and who cares? And now, city number 24 is Birmingham, the UK's second largest city. So I think Birmingham is better than Bournemouth just because you have some interesting architecture in the city centre. I mean, you've got the Boring shopping centre, which is great for shopping. And as you can see here on the screen, the Boring centre does have this kind of futuristic alien-like architecture. And also I must say that Birmingham New Street train station is one of the most modern and fancy train stations in the entire country. You do have some impressive architecture, some impressive buildings, some statues. I think that's Queen Victoria there, do correct me if I'm wrong. It's of course a very vibrant place because you do have lots of restaurants and bars and nightlife, but the reason why I rank it quite low in this list is just because yeah, it's quite a sketchy place. As soon as you leave the Bullring shopping centre area and the main high street, yeah, it does look quite ugly, to be honest. It didn't feel too safe at night when I was walking about, and it's not really somewhere that I would like to live. It's decent for shopping and some food, but that's about it. Now, city number 23 is Southampton. Now, I must say that Southampton is another one of these very ugly cities that was destroyed very heavily in the war, so a lot of the architecture that you see in the city does look pretty horrific. So you're probably looking at these clips here thinking, my lord, this looks absolutely horrific, this awful brutalist style architecture. So the reason why I will give Southampton the edge over Birmingham is just because I think Southampton is a little bit safer. Birmingham can feel quite sketchy. It is a relatively vibrant city. It is a student city, so there are some bars that you can go to at the weekend. There is also a museum called the Sea City Museum, which is kind of a Titanic museum. If you didn't know, the Titanic actually set sail from Southampton. So now city number 22 is Nottingham. The architecture here is certainly better than the architecture in Southampton, and I would say that it is a more lively place, more of a student atmosphere, because Nottingham is one of the biggest student cities in the entire country. It certainly does have lots of bars and clubs and restaurants and cafes, but one of the reasons why I'm not ranking it so highly is because the city centre can feel quite sketchy. I saw multiple fights break out in the middle of a day in the city centre. I would not recommend walking down dodgy side streets, especially late at night, because it doesn't feel the safest. Just keep your wits about you and you should be fine, but it definitely does feel like a rough and ready kind of city. And if you are lucky like me, you may get to even see some random robots walking around the city. No idea what that was about, but there we go. And now city number 21 is another city where I don't have any footage or any pictures, sadly, but 21 is Portsmouth. You actually have some cool things to do in Portsmouth. You can go up the Spinnaker Tower. If you just Google Portsmouth, you'll see the Spinnaker Tower. It's like the most iconic structure in the city. You can go and see the remains of the Mary Rose ship, which was the warship used by Henry VIII to fight against the French back in the day. You can do some shopping and eat some food at Gunwharf Quays, the outdoor shopping centre. You can also go down to Southsea Beach in the summer. There's also an aquarium there you can visit. So I think it's better than Nottingham because there are some interesting things to do, but similar to Nottingham, there is this kind of unsafe feeling that you get in the city because again, it does feel a bit sketchy in areas. Now, number 20 on my list is Chester. Now, the reason why I'm going to rank Chester higher than Portsmouth is because Chester does have nicer architecture, as you can see here. You have lots of medieval and Tudor architecture. They have a nice cathedral up there, and if you are into your horse racing, perhaps you can take a little trip to the Chester race courses to watch some horses run around if that's your thing. The reason why I'm not rating Chester higher is just because it is a little small for my liking, and this Tudor style black and white architecture does get a little boring after a while. It's just not as dynamic and as exciting as some other places in the UK. And now city number 19 in my list is the city of Norwich. Very similar to Chester in the sense that it is a smaller city with a kind of relaxed atmosphere. The only reason why I would rank Norwich higher than Chester is just because of the buildings. The buildings are a bit more colourful, a bit more vivid. I do like colourful architecture, so I just give the edge to Norwich in that regard because it is a more colourful city. But to be honest with you, there isn't much to split Norwich with Chester. Very similar cities, very similar relaxed vibes, lots of cafes and cute little shops that you can go to. But again, Norwich is not really one of those cities that really excited me. It's not a place that I really have much desire to return to. And now number 18 on my list is Exeter. And to be honest, I can't really split Norwich with Exeter, to be honest. Again, they're two very similar places. I mean, I guess Norwich and Exeter could swap places, but I think I'll give the edge to Exeter just because I think there may be just a little more atmosphere in Exeter, but perhaps that's just because of the days in which I went to both places. I mean, Exeter does have a nice cathedral, as you can see on the screen there. In the summer you can walk along the river and get an ice cream, get some food, so that's a nice thing to do. And like Norwich, Exeter does have a castle too. Now number 17 on my list is Winchester. Now perhaps I am being a little biased because I did study in Winchester for sixth form college, but it is a really nice place. Now I'm not usually a small city guy, but because Winchester is very compact and centres around one high street, it means that one high street is very busy, very buzzing. Lots of cafes, restaurants, bars, pubs about. I sadly didn't take many pictures of Winchester when I was a sixth form student, so we only really have these two pictures here, but Winchester was the former capital city of Wessex, so it's where King Alfred the Great ruled Wessex from, so you can see his statue here in the city. The reason why I don't rank it higher is because Winchester is just a little too small for me, so you can feel a bit claustrophobic there. So now number 16 in my list is Oxford. And Oxford is kind of like Winchester, but just 4 times the size and 4 times more vibrant. As I'm sure many of you know, Oxford is home to Oxford University, which is the oldest university in the English-speaking world and one of the most famous universities, period, in the world. So even though Oxford isn't a massive city at all, it's extremely cosmopolitan. You'll see people from all over the world, students from all over the world, academics, researchers from everywhere. The reason why I'm not ranking it high is just because I didn't really click with Oxford as I clicked with many other places in the UK. It is nice, the architecture is nice, but it's just not really a city that I vibe with. It doesn't really feel like a fun place. It does feel like a very serious and sometimes overcrowded place. And now back up to Scotland for my 15th favourite place in the UK, up to the town of St Andrews. You've got lovely architecture within the town itself. It's located by the coast. You have really lovely coastline. You have lovely beaches that you can go and check out in the summer. And I must say, the beaches here do have a nicer backdrop than the beaches in Bournemouth. Now again, I must say that the town is a little small for my liking, to be brutally honest, but because it is such a beautiful place and because the architecture is lovely, the coastline's lovely, it is one of the higher ranked cities in this list, in my opinion. Well, actually, I should say town, not city. Now, next at number 14 is the city of Newcastle. The reason I will rank Newcastle above St Andrews is because Newcastle is a more dynamic city, it's a larger city, a more vibrant place, even though St Andrews is certainly a more beautiful place than Newcastle. However, that being said, you certainly do have some nice Georgian architecture, as you can see here in the city of Newcastle. It's a very compact and lively city. You've got lots of shops, lots of bars. You even have a metro system as well, which is pretty uncommon for cities and towns in the UK to have. So you can actually take the metro to the beach in the summer in the northeast. The thing about Newcastle is that it is known as a party city. Lots of people say it has very good nightlife, and it does have decent nightlife. There are lots of bars, lots of pubs, lots of clubs about in the town, but I wouldn't say it's outstanding nightlife. It's certainly not the best nightlife in the world. Newcastle is also a football mad city as well, so definitely check out St James's Park. But I must say, I do feel horribly sorry for Alan Shearer having this absolute monstrosity of a statue built for him. He looks like an absolute alien in this statue here, but oh well. And now number 13 in the list is the capital city of Wales, Cardiff. Now, I personally do think that Newcastle is a more fun place than Cardiff, but I must say that because Cardiff is a capital city, there are more touristy things to do in Cardiff compared with somewhere like Newcastle, for example. You can visit Cardiff Castle, you can go to the Wales National Museum, you can go down to Cardiff Bay. There are lots of restaurants, bars and shops there. You can also check out the Millennium Centre if you're into performing arts. And of course you have the Principality Stadium, which was formerly called the Millennium Stadium, and it hosts a lot of sporting events. It's not a particularly big city, but because it is a capital city, it does punch above its weight, so it is a cool place to check out. It isn't one of my absolute favourite places because it's not the most pretty place you'll see in the UK, but it is a vibrant place, so it's worth checking out. Number 12 is Leeds. Now, from a tourist perspective, Cardiff does have more things to do than Leeds, but I just personally prefer Leeds. I like the architecture in Leeds. I quite like the way that the city centre is laid out. You can also do some shopping at the Trinity Centre shopping centre, and also Leeds is known as one of the biggest student cities in the UK, so there is a very good nightlife in Leeds too. It can get a tad boring after a while because there isn't too much to do other than go shopping, eat food, drink and go out. But yeah, it's decent enough, so I think ranking Leeds 12th is pretty fair. And now number 11 is Lincoln. I really like Lincoln. It's a really nice city, very medieval, very historic. You've got one of the nicest cathedrals in the entire country, in my opinion, there. You've got lots of pubs, lots of bars, lots of restaurants, lots of shops. You've also got Lincoln Castle that you can check out as well. Lots of historic streets. I do think Lincoln is quite underrated. Not many people really visit. It isn't that big, so you don't need more than 2 days in the city. So it's a cool weekend break that you can do. As you can see here in the clips, it is a very nice city. And now finally, we have reached the top 10, and city number 10 is Brighton. Brighton is very vibrant, very colourful. Definitely go and check out the lanes area where you have lots of these coloured houses, coloured shops everywhere. You'll find lots of pubs, lots of bars, lots of restaurants, lots of shops. If you're interested in seeing some interesting architecture, you can definitely check out the Royal Pavilion. And of course, Brighton is famous for its beach. Unfortunately, I don't actually have any clips of the beach, but do be aware that it is a stone pebble beach and not a sandy beach. It is a cool day trip that you can do from London, especially in the summer, but do be aware in the summer it can get very, very overcrowded in Brighton. The town itself isn't very big, so it can get very crowded. And now we get up to the 9th best city in my list, and that is Glasgow. Now, like pretty much everywhere else in the UK, I definitely recommend you go to Glasgow in the summer, because I went in both winter and summer and the contrast was very stark. In the winter, it was very grey and miserable, but in the summer, the city really did come to life. You have really nice historic architecture in the city. As Scotland's biggest city, you do have lots of shopping, lots of culture, lots of restaurants, bars. There is a very young and creative atmosphere in the city. Now, I'm not personally into art galleries, but you can go to the Kelvin Grove Art Gallery, which is one of the most famous art galleries in Scotland. You do get a lot of festivals and concerts in Glasgow in the summer. The nightlife scene in Glasgow is really good as well. And people from Glasgow, Glaswegians, are some of the friendliest people in the entire United Kingdom. They really are friendly. They have a very good sense of humour, so you will have fun up there. There is a little cheesy slogan around the city that says, "People make Glasgow," and to be fair, it is pretty accurate in my opinion. Now, the city does have a bit of a reputation as being quite dangerous, but honestly, if you keep to the city centre and keep your wits about you, as the Glaswegians would say, you should be fine. And now, my 8th best city in the UK is Liverpool. Liverpool is very, very similar to Glasgow, so it's actually very hard to split both places, but like Glasgow, it's a really vibrant place. Loads of bars, loads of restaurants, loads of shops. You've got lots of art galleries, lots of museums, lots of entertainment venues. Again, you definitely want to come in the summer months, June, July, August. That's when the weather will be best. That's when the city will be at its most vibrant. You'll find lots of nightlife as well. You can go to an area called Concert Square, which is full of pubs, bars, clubs, everything that you need. There's also an area called Matthew Street as well, which is full of pubs and bars too. And again, Liverpool is a city which does have a bit of a reputation for crime. So again, be careful, keep your wits about you. Don't walk down any dodgy side streets, or don't walk alone late at night in dark areas. So just keep your eyes open and you should be fine. And now my 7th best city in the UK is Bath. Now, from an architecture perspective, Bath probably is the nicest looking city in the entire country, in my opinion. You have extremely nice Georgian architecture all throughout the city. Bath Abbey is one of the most impressive churches in the entire country. It's an incredibly safe place. There's not really much that I can fault Bath with, but what I will say is that it is quite small, so you can get a bit bored, I guess. Now, in 6th place, another similar city to Bath with fantastic architecture, it is Cambridge. Cambridge, again, is one of the most beautiful places in the entire country. I mean, look at the architecture here. It's a lovely place. I don't want to sound cheesy, but there is something like magical about the city. Just walking around all the colleges, seeing all the university buildings, the grand architecture. I just love walking along all the cobbled streets. You've got loads of cafes, bars, pubs, restaurants. I really do like Cambridge. I do think it is the best day trip to do from London if you are going to take a day trip from London, in my opinion. I know it's a bit of an oxymoron, but it's really chilled yet really vibrant at the same time. I really do like Cambridge. And now that leads me to my 5th favourite city in the UK, which is the capital, London. Now, from a tourist perspective, if you are from outside the UK and if you can only visit one city in the UK, it certainly does have to be London. I mean, London has everything that you need. Of course, all of the famous tourist attractions, lots of restaurants, lots of cafes, lots of bars, lots of districts, lots of nightlife, lots of different areas that you can explore. I mean, it is a truly international city, so it definitely is a world city. Now, of course, I'm not going to list out all of the things you can do in London because I'd be here all day, but what I will say is definitely make sure you check out Camden Market. Definitely make sure you check out Borough Market and also go to Primrose Hill to get some nice views all across the city. The reason why it's not my number one is because, yeah, you do have to be careful, especially in the suburbs with crime, and also it is very, very expensive, the most expensive place in the country, and people can be quite rude as well in London. And now then, my fourth favourite city in the UK is York. If you had to paint a picture of what a quintessential English town would look like, or if you got artificial intelligence to do it for you, it would probably be York. It is a beautiful city. It's quite small, but it's not too small, but it's not too big. It's kind of like the perfect size city in my opinion. You've got loads of cafes, loads of coffee shops, loads of pubs, really good food, really good restaurants. I definitely recommend you try a Yorkshire pudding wrap. I wish I took a picture of it because I don't have any pictures of it, but yeah, really tasty Yorkshire pudding wrap full of meat, gravy, are perfect. And also try some scones, try an afternoon tea, and also check out York Minster as well, an absolutely stunning cathedral in the city. It's a really safe city too, but what I would say is don't expect crazy nightlife because it is a smaller city, so places like London, Birmingham, so you're not going to have an exciting nightlife scene compared to those places, but York is definitely a lovely place to visit. And so now my third favourite city in the UK is Manchester, and now this is a little controversial ranking Manchester over York and London, but I really like Manchester. It's a very vibrant city, very creative place, very youthful. It's a big student city, so the nightlife scene is excellent. Loads of restaurants, loads of bars, loads of cafes. There's lots of culture. Of course, Manchester is famous for its two football teams, Manchester United and Manchester City, so you can go and watch a game at either Old Trafford or the Etihad Stadium. You can also visit the National Football Museum as well. You've got great shopping too. You can either go to the Trafford Centre, which is a tram ride away from the city centre. You can also go to the Arndale Shopping Centre in Manchester City Centre as well. And Manchester is also famous for its Christmas markets. It's arguably got the best Christmas market in the UK, so if you are visiting around Christmas time, you can definitely check that out. I also definitely recommend that you check out the Northern Quarter for cafes and bars too. It is a very trendy area, and also what I will say is that people from Manchester are very, very friendly. I found Mancunians to be some of the friendliest people in the entire country, so you will have a good time with the locals up there. But what I would say about Manchester is that it may not look very pleasing on the eye to you. The city centre is quite nice, the architecture is quite nice, but it's not the best in the country, and especially outside of the city centre, it can look a bit rough around the edges, so just be aware that architecturally speaking, it isn't the best in the country, but I really do like the city itself. It is a cool city. And now then, my second favourite UK city is the capital of Scotland, Edinburgh. Edinburgh is one of the most spectacular places, not just in the UK, but in Europe. The architecture is stunning, lots of this quality Gothic architecture throughout the city. It is very quintessentially Scottish, yet extremely cosmopolitan. You'll meet tourists and travellers from all over the world in Edinburgh. You also have a fantastic food scene. Definitely make sure you try some haggis. It is a Scottish delicacy and you should definitely try some. Certainly recommend that you check out Edinburgh Castle. It's one of the top things to do in the city. The city is really green as well. You have lots of green spaces. You've got museums, you've got art galleries, you've got fantastic views across the city if you go up to Calton Hill. You have really good nightlife as well, lots of pubs, bars, clubs as well. The city centre is really safe as well, but I guess two disadvantages of Edinburgh would be the fact that it can get very, very overcrowded with tourists, especially in the summer, and also it's quite pricey as well, to be honest. And now finally, that leads me on to my favourite UK city, my number one UK city, and that is Bristol. Now, I may be a little bit biased because I did study at Bristol for 3 years, but I think Bristol is the best city in the UK, at least in my view. You've got fantastic architecture throughout the city. It's a very vibrant place, lots of students about. You do have a great nightlife scene there with lots of bars and clubs, but also you can easily escape that because Bristol is a very green city, lots and lots of parks, lots of hills that you can walk up to get some nice views of the city. Now, that can be a bit of a disadvantage because Bristol is very hilly, so make sure you bring your walking boots if you're going to visit. And you certainly need to visit the Clifton Suspension Bridge, which is Bristol's most iconic building. You'll see it all over the internet when you type Bristol into your search engine. You can take some really iconic postcard-esque pictures of the bridge when you are there. You get some lovely views. I certainly do recommend that you check out the Clifton neighbourhood of the city because the architecture there is really stunning. You've got lots of lovely cafes, coffee shops and restaurants that you can check out. But I must say that Bristol is on the pricier side. It is quite an expensive city. However, you've got lots of culture. If you didn't know, Banksy is actually from Bristol, so you've got lots of artwork and graffiti work throughout the city. There really is a thriving arts, culture and music scene in the city. But one disadvantage again of Bristol is that it is a city known for its protests. You will see a lot of protests if you do spend enough time in the city, so that is one thing to be aware of. But other than that, I do think that Bristol is my favourite city in the United Kingdom. Now, do be aware that I haven't been to every city and town in the UK, so I can't judge every single place, and I haven't been to places like Bradford, Hull, Swansea and so on and so on, so I'm sorry that those places aren't in the list. But to be honest with you, I'm not sure that I particularly want to go to those kind of places anyway. But yeah, that would be my list of these 33 towns and cities in the UK that I've been to. Again, do drop a comment if you disagree or if you agree with anything that I've said. And also do let me know your list of your favourite towns and cities in the UK in your order of preference, because it will be very interesting to compare lists between people. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, for free you can subscribe to the channel. It really does help my channel out, so make sure you do click that subscribe button and also click the thumbs up, click that like button as well. It really does help promote the video, and click the notification bell to get notified when I release my latest video. So thanks a lot for watching, hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.